This is Heart Pocket Podcast number 384 for the 17th of February, 2026.
Heart Pocket Podcast, seeking to align our hearts with God's heart, making our hearts more like the heart of Jesus.
This is a Bible story done at a recent STS training.
So, yesterday we learned from Taylor that the people of Israel had this time of judges, but eventually they desired a king like the rest of the nations. So they went to Samuel, who was the prophet, who really led spiritually Israel. And they said, we want a king like the rest of the nations. God did not reject this. He allowed the people to have a king, and that king was Saul. Saul is young in his reign when this story starts. He's had a few military victories against a group called the Amorites and a few other things that are noteworthy of success. The main things that are essential to also know, God works in spite of the people of Israel constantly. When there are large numbers militarily, he shows up and defeats large armies in spite of Israel's numbers. Currently, Jonathan, who is Saul the king's son, attacked a Philistine garrison, and that is pretty much all we know, or need to know. And the story begins with, and all of Israel heard the news that Saul had attacked the Philistine garrisons, and that the Israelites were repulsive to the Philistines. So Saul summoned the troops to meet him at Gilgal, and the Philistines also brought troops to fight against Israel. They had 3,000 chariots, 6,000 horses, and troops as numerous as sand on the seashore. And they camped at Michmash, which was east of Bethaven. Now Israel, the men, saw that they were in trouble because of the dangerous situations, that the troops of Israel were hiding among rocks and thickets and in caves and cisterns and wells. And some of the Hebrews even crossed the Jordan into the land of Gad and Gilead. The Israelites were gripped by fear. Now, Saul was still at Gilgal, and he was waiting there for the 7 appointed days that Samuel had set, but Samuel did not show at Gilgal, and the troops of Saul were deserting him. So he said, bring me the burnt offering and the fellowship offering. And he offered the burnt offering. As soon as he did this, Samuel arrived. And Saul went out to greet him. Samuel said, what have you done? And Saul said, when I saw that the troops were deserting me and that you had not shown at the appointed time, and that the troops of the Philistines were camped at Michmash, I thought the Philistines will descend the Philistines will descend on me at Gilgal, and I have not sought the Lord's favor, and I forced myself to offer the burnt offering. And Samuel said, you have acted foolishly. You have not kept the Lord's commandments. Today would have been the day you would have had your reign permanently established, but instead your reign will not endure. And the Lord has found a man after his own heart, and he will rule over the people of Israel because you have not kept the commandments. And that is the word of the Lord. Yeah, so let's do it one more time. So it's starting with all of Israel heard the news that who attacked the Philistine garrison?
Jonathan.
It was, Saul. And
Jonathan. All right, sorry.
Yeah, that's the introduction.
It was, but that actually leads to a good question. The Philistine garrison. And that the Philistines were repulsed by Israel. And who summoned the troops to Gilgal?
Saul.
And what did the Philistines do in response?
King who?
Assembled at McMash.
Before that, they
Didn't they-
also assembled.
Like 3,000 chariots,
Yep.
6,000 horses, and a whole bunch of men that were like the sand of the sea.
Yes,
Look at her.
numerous as sand on the seashore.
Look at her.
And they camped at Michmash, which was east of Bethaven. And the troops of Israel were troubled, and they,
Hidden
Get out.
caves.
if you get this, hidden caves, rocks, thickets,
They even
And-
went across
Even
the
crossed the
river
Jordan
Jordan to
Yeah.
where
Cisterns and wells.
and cisterns and wells, and they even did what?
cross the Jordan to Gad.
Yeah, you don't have to remember that. In the land of Gad and Gilead.
There you go.
Great. And and then Saul was still at Gilgal. The Israelites were gripped by fear, and they were the people of Israel were waiting how many days
7.
for the appointed time that who had set?
Samuel.
And was Samuel showing up?
No,
Not yet.
He delayed his
Samuel?
it
coming.
was delayed.
Samuel had not come in the appointed time. Yes. And what was also happening? Were the troops staying with Saul?
Nope, they
Or
were
deserting?
deserting him.
So the troops were deserting Saul. And what did Saul do in response? He said, "Bring me what?"
The burnt offering.
offering.
And
Fellowship offerings.
Yeah, burnt offering and fellowship offering, the two offerings. And Saul offered the burnt offering. And as soon as he did that, who showed up?
Samuel.
good time, Samuel.
And what did Saul do as soon as he saw us?
Yeah, Samuel.
He ran out and greeted him.
And Samuel said, "Thanks for doing all my work. We're good. Let's go to battle."
He said, no,
Foolish.
your reign is over.
What have you done?
Eventually he said, "What have you done?" And Saul responded with 3 things. When I saw that my troops were what?
Deserting.
And that you had not come at the appointed time, and that the Philistines were camped at Michmash.
I forced myself.
I I thought what were they doing? What do you think was going to happen?
Philistines were going to come down after him.
Yeah, descend or come down after at Gilgal. And what did he do?
He forced
himself.
To make the offering.
To make the offering. And then Saul said, "You have acted foolishly,
Yeah.
for you have not kept what?
The Lord's command.
Today would have been the day that he would have what?
Established your kingdom.
Forever.
Forever or permanently?"
Yeah.
Yep. And because the Lord has found who?
Found
A
someone with
man
his own
after
heart.
his own heart.
Man after his own heart. And because of that, he will rule over whom?
All of Israel.
All of Israel or all the people.
And you won't.
Because
You disobeyed.
you disobeyed or you did not follow the commandments. Good job. Whew. So we see Saul at the beginning of this have a victory. Jonathan, from the introduction, was the one that did it, but Saul was the one claimed. How do you think Saul must have felt at the beginning of this passage where he attacked the Philistine garrison and succeeded?
You ain't losing.
He ain't losing.
God's on my side.
God's on my
Keep
side.
going.
Going right.
So, okay, anyone else?
Invincible.
Invincible? Okay. Why do you think that?
See?
Look, I just took out one of the more powerful armies
Yes.
in all of the Middle East, or even probably even all the world at this point. Who can stop me? What can stop me?
Yeah, that might change. But anyone else?
Could it be that he was actually afraid?
Oh, okay. Expand on that.
Well, just in the sense that they've now, they're, I mean, the most powerful army, but now just really upset. If you take out one garrison,
Yeah.
how much more do they got?
Mm.
So for Nathan to do that, not Nathan, was it Nathan? No. For
Saul.
Saul's son,
Jonathan.
Jonathan.
Yep.
To do that, it could have been like, well, you just stirred the hornet's nest.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
So you're saying that was actually possibly a bad idea?
well, he's thinking that, my gosh, they're going to descend on me.
Yeah.
So everything from there on was him in fear.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Does anyone want to touch on that?
Just seemed like he's reacting in fear.
And also, he's now got credit when he didn't. It was him. It's kind of funny that he got credit for something else.
Yeah.
For somebody else that did something.
Well, yeah, the story starts with when all of Israel heard the news that Saul had attacked the Philistine garrison.
Yeah.
Which, and the Israelites were repulsive now to the Philistines. That the troops were summoned at Gilgal by Saul, and that the Philistines also raised an army. That was 3,000 chariots, 6,000 horsemen, and his troops as numerous as sand on the seashore. Does it say anything about Saul or the people of Israel's perception that Jonathan didn't get credit but Saul did?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Well, honestly, he's his son, he's a soldier.
Yeah.
There's lots of times that generals get credit for things their soldiers do. So I don't necessarily think it's a poor reflection on Saul. I just think it's the way that military tends to work.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yes. Sorry, something that I put on the shelf. Philistines are enemy. Taylor basically mentioned all of it. That they're the juggernaut and the rival of the people of Israel at this time. And yeah, they're pretty powerful. Does it seem like they have a larger army than the Israelites?
Sand on the seashore, that takes a while to count that.
Yeah.
So
And the people of Israel are, we read, in kind of a weird situation where they're in caves, thickets, rocks, and in cisterns and wells or holes. And they even crossed the Jordan. What does that say about the people of Israel?
They're afraid.
Okay, true.
and not just afraid, but borderline panicking.
Yeah.
Like more than just ooh, we're not. I mean, they're it seems like they're almost in full rout, and the battle hadn't even started yet.
Yeah. Does anyone else have the question of why in the heck did they even attack the garrison in the first place?
It makes me wonder, actually, I've been wondering about it ever since you said that it was Jonathan. And the fact that it makes me wonder at the relationship between Saul and Jonathan. If Saul is entirely pleased with his son Jonathan. Seems like his son has done a few things that his father doesn't like. Like supporting David, like, attacking the garrison and then getting the army all riled up and now everybody's hiding. And
How do you think Saul feels now, though? I mean, just within the story, like Jonathan might have screwed up, might have not. How do you think Saul is feeling in the moment?
well, with his army deserting him, he can't be too pleased.
Right before, we're going to get to that, but right before his army's deserting, Saul's basically in the scramble mode of summoning the troops right now.
Unprepared.
Unprepared? Okay. Anyone else?
I don't see Saul scrambling. I mean,
Okay.
I see Saul responding like, the Philistines are their enemy. So, you attack your enemy. So I don't necessarily see like displeasure or pleasure one way or the other. He just knows the Philistines are around, they're coming around, and I got to get my men assembled. Obviously, he can see them up on the mountain, and I got to get the troops together. We got to prepare ourselves, and so far they won. What would tell them at this moment that they're not going to win? So I don't necessarily see him scrambling around going, oh my gosh, what do we, they all got to get here.
Okay, so you see this as they took the garrison, they're in the lead right now.
Well, they're just functioning as, they're just preparing for another battle.
Yeah, fortifying.
Well, he's still a relatively new king, and I don't remember any kind of military action really that he's been involved in.
The Amorites was, I think, mentioned in the introduction. He decimated them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but he's still relatively inexperienced.
Yes.
At this. So I can imagine a little bit of uncertainty on his part, but probably blustering his way through.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
in the next part, Saul's still in Gilgal, and the troops are gripped with fear. And he's waiting there 7 days for the appointed time that Samuel had set, and Samuel doesn't show up at Gilgal. What does it say about Israel? Sorry, the troops were deserting him.
They don't have this confidence that we're saying
I
this.
mean, I do think the troops are afraid. I mean, they're. You just said they're the sands of the sea, so they. I mean, even if you slow counter.
Speed cover.
Like a
They got more than we got. That's not good battle. That's not good arming. You know, I gotta do. I'm not interested in dying. I mean, that to me is sort of what they're saying, and so that's why I think for me in the story when it tells me that the Israelites, it doesn't tell me Saul. It says the Israelites were gripped with fear. Does that mean Saul's not? I mean, I don't know, but I think at times his youth or inexperience could take away some of that fear because I haven't lost you didn't mention anything about him losing a battle. He hasn't lost one yet. And so, man, I'm good. I mean, I'm good at what I do as long as I have men around me, right? But they're running away. I think what changes Saul's attitude is the dudes that he's expecting to do the fighting are starting to cross the Jordan, and I mean they're sissies. They're hiding in wells and cisterns and caves. I mean, my goodness, come on, get your spear and your arrow and shield, and let's get after it.
Well,
It makes me wonder, though, because I won't get into the details of Jonathan's attack there because it was rather remarkable, but I do wonder based on that, and as I recall, word kind of got out about what actually happened in terms of people. It's like maybe they're thinking, maybe they're not thinking his leadership is so great. I know Jonathan got at least a couple of people to follow him initially with his deal, but it seems like Saul is having a little bit more difficulty in that. Maybe they would have preferred Jonathan's leadership, but they certainly don't seem particularly thrilled about Saul's at the moment.
Does anyone else want to comment on that? That's a good insight, Brooke.
Did you get to the section about prophet hadn't shown up yet?
I have not gotten there yet, but we can go there. But I was going to say the one thing, was there anything else the troops of Israel could have done besides deserting?
They could have fight. They could have rallied behind Saul.
Yes. Also, shelf's getting heavier. They don't have any weapons.
You really like that shelf.
It's a new one. It's from IKEA.
Do you really need a shelf for it though? Because I think it's a valid point.
That they didn't have weapons?
No, the point you made before that about.
I'm shelving the weapons just
the weapons,
because
okay.
Steve commented. But yeah, no, that was a valid point that you brought up. I just wanted to mention that for Steve. It was like, I don't think that any weapons. So he said, bring me the burnt offering and the fellowship offering, offer the burnt offering. And as soon as he offered the burnt offering, Samuel showed up and Saul went out to greet him. And he said, actually, what do you think Samuel might have thought what do you think Saul might have thought when Samuel showed up? Could it have been positive or negative?
Could have been.
Well, his response seems to be positive, like, Samuel must be glad to see me, because I'm glad to see him.
Yeah.
Again, I think he could have been blustering.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, I just did that. Not to do that. Hey, buddy.
I think when he hears Samuel's there, he already knows I screwed up. I've messed up. I got to figure out some way to cover all this up. Thinking Samuel's got no idea. Yeah, he's just trying to say, man, I got to do something because there's no way Samuel's going to know that I have offered an offering per se.
Yeah.
But, man, he's here. I know I'm not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, Saul knows that. And he's running out, so you can't see the evidence. I messed up in there, but if I meet you here, then it's all going to be good. He's going to pat me on the back and pray for me, and I'm going to win again. And Samuel busts his bubble because he goes, what in the world have you done? So
I see the smoke.
Yeah, it's a little awkward.
I wonder, from just me listening to the story and everything, is he trying to use Samuel and the offering as a rabbit's foot for the good luck that he needs because he doesn't have faith?
Oh, wow. Well, what do you guys think?
I like that idea.
It seems possible based on his reaction. So like, well, this offering's got to be made. So, you know, if he don't, it's okay. I'll just make it. You know, it seems that he did wait 7 days, but ultimately the way that he does it, it seems as though he's treating it somewhat lightly.
Can you expound on that a little bit, Brooke?
Well, he just said, you know, he's not going to come. You bring it to me. I'll do it.
Yeah.
It's as though it's something to be done rather than something that will be done, you know, when it comes. It's more like, well, this has got to be done, so you know what, I'll do it. It's more like these offerings have to be made before I can do anything else. So it does seem more like a task, the way that it's being treated. So that's why I would say that there's some lightness. I don't want to say frivolity because that would be going a little too far, but it's not being treated overly heavily. I know it's another big word. I apologize.
Frivolity is not a biscuit word.
No, it's not.
It's kindling.
I'm glad that's not used in the story.
I wonder if also he is trying to muster the troops. He's trying to, you know, get them out of their holes. Hey, look, it's all good now. You know, God's with us. Here's the offerings.
Yeah.
You know, he's trying to inspire, maybe, in the sense of, okay, come out of your cave.
Well, I think he says to Samuel, I did this because I needed the favor of God.
Yeah.
So I'm coming back to both Brooke and Mark here is bringing up this idea that, man, Saul knows enough that God's been a part of this, of his victories, but I need to go through every time we've won battle, these things have taken place. And
yeah.
I think as a person, as an athlete, there's lots of athletes have superstitions, and I think Saul may be one of those that's like, okay, we've done this every single time, but the dude ain't here. And he said he was going to be here 7 days, and he's not here when I think he ought to be here, because Samuel does show up in 7 days. He just doesn't show up at noon when Saul's ready for him to do the offering, you know?
Just 12:01. Perfect. But Brooke, you made the observation, and Steve, you added, that sometimes we can put God in a box, or at least have these specific things that lead to victory. And it seems that happens in this story. But do we still somewhat put God in a box in order to check off a box occasionally in the world today?
Yeah.
Does that happen with people you know, or sometimes in our lives?
Yeah.
Can we think of any examples of things that happen for us or for others where we've been in these situations?
How about quiet time? How about doing a quiet time? That's a checkbox item, right?
Yes.
I have to check off my quiet time.
Y'all got to pray for her, do something.
Pray before we eat.
Yeah.
Traveling mercies.
Yep.
Oh. Unspoken prayer request.
What are traveling mercies? I actually just don't know what that is.
Oh, that's when people ask you to pray
Nobody does
for
either.
their trips.
Safety, be safe on the road.
Oh, I grew up Catholic, so St. Christopher.
How about this? In Jesus' name. Just because that's what you're supposed to put at the end of every prayer. This is done.
That's convicting. Anything else?
I read my 2 chapters, I wrote my check, put it in the offering box. We should be good to go. I did my good deed for the week.
And it's an important good deed. Just remember that.
Amen.
Not even just showing up to church. So many of the pickers that I know have told me crazy stories about like playing, they'll play a gig on a Saturday night and they got all of these ladies that are just drunk out of their minds hitting on them. And they're talking, they got these big crosses around their neck, and I'm like, what in the world? Like, I can't believe you're doing that. They say, oh no, I'm just gonna go to church in the morning and be, absolved or whatever. And I mean, I'd say, where do these people go? I don't know, Cornerstone, Calvary Chapel, whatever. And a lot of guys that I knew, like around Riverside County, knew a bunch of people that was always happening. And they were like, yeah, these chicks do some wild stuff. And then they're just saying that they'll be at church the next morning and then everything will be okay.
Wow.
Was there anything from this story, because we only got halfway through it, that stuck out to you when we were going through it?
The danger of doing the wrong thing when you feel like you have to do something. That usually it's better to do nothing.
For me, it was
than to do the wrong thing.
the justification to do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Right? The way we justify in our minds.
Again, Saul took no blame in the whole story. I mean, he said, I didn't do it. I mean,
You didn't show up.
Samuel, you're the one who messed up. It's not me. I had to do your job because you didn't show up.
Well, this story is found in 1 Samuel 13, 4 through 14. And we got to verse 8.
Tune in next week for another episode of Heart Pocket Podcast, and feel free to subscribe on iTunes. For those who wish to have more information about Simply the Story trainings, please feel free to contact the office at info@simplythestory.org or call us at 951-658-1619. You can also visit our website at simplythestory.org. And now you can watch God's story in hundreds of languages just from our simplythestory.org website.
You've been listening to Heart Pocket Podcast, hiding God's Word in our heart pockets, changing the world one heart at a time.
When it sings of glory, I sing the new soul. Will be the old story that I have loved so long.